basically, I studied business economics here in Zagreb in Croatia, and I picked marketing as my major. I was always interested in advertisements, and I always wanted to work in advertising. So basically, unlike many others in like teenage years, I already knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in advertising, so it was quite easy for me to choose my path. And during my study, I've took a class called internet marketing, and that was back I think in 2008 or 2009. And basically, I learned a lot about digital marketing there, and I decided, okay, this is like really interesting. I think that this segment, this industry will get even more, it will improve even in the future, and that has a lot of potential. So I decided I would like to actually, I wanted to start to work in that industry because quite fascinated by social media, and back then social media was exploding, and it was early development for Facebook, and Instagram still wasn't released, so that was quite fun. So I sent a couple of CVs to some open positions, to some internships, and I started working as a social media manager. But I was always interested in advertising, like I mentioned. So pretty soon I switched to media buying, and I was quite fortunate because I actually was quite fortunate to have a chance to create my own team for performance marketing. And this is where I stayed the most. So I grew that team to 8 people. And after some time, I decided I want to work more with the product. So I would say that when I look back at my faculty times and now, I think that the faculty gave me like a good fundamental knowledge, and maybe some practical through case studies,
Mm.
competitions, etc. But I could definitely see that in my career path, my like proactive approach and things I did on my own, like my own projects on social media, etc. Those definitely gave me like those definitely were quite um, those definitely gave me like an leverage.
And why the move to product? Why move from the marketing, performance marketing to the product side?
Mhm. Yeah, so basically, when I worked in performance marketing, the product was the only thing we couldn't change, and it was the hardest thing to change. And I got quite interested in the product development, and that sounded like I want to work on product basically,
Yeah.
because this is the thing that I couldn't never, or I didn't have a lot of chance to actually work with teams on product, or to even make a better product, for example. So this is why I decided to switch to product, so I can actually influence how does the product look like. And through my knowledge of performance marketing, I think that both specters are joining quite nicely now.
Mm.
So I can actually amplify what I know already from performance marketing perspective and put that into creating better products. I would say there were certainly mistakes. I mean, everybody make mistakes, but for me, those were like more of a lessons, basically that I learned through the way. So, for example, if you're working in performance marketing, check your budgets twice. For example, you don't want to overspend. That happens a lot of times, and Facebook is pretty buggy, and other systems are pretty buggy. So make sure your budget is on the line. Well, I was working on pitches. Of course, you have to realize that some pitches will not be successful. Some pitches will actually fail, and you have to deal with that. So don't take it personally. And yeah, and of course, if your campaign is not working from the performance side, uh, basically the only thing you can do is just gather some data, get some insights, and propose new ways that you can test and validate. Because Product side is hard to change, but of course it's always nice if you can change actually the product. And finally, something I learned along the way, since I started working for Martian: if there is no market fit, then it's totally okay to kill the product and start with something new. So
Yeah.
these are like some couple of lessons that I learned along the way. I mean, fundamentals stayed the same, but technology changed a lot. So, for example, some changes have forced us to implement analytics differently, prepare campaigns differently, create creatives or websites differently, etc. But I would say that marketing is still marketing. So we are just using tools to help us out, and technology and development of technology will help us out in the future. So basically, what I think will happen in the next couple of years is that technology will take over some manual operational stuff and will be probably our best sidekick. And we will focus more on strategic side and building products, and we will be focused more on user research and data and gathering insights, etc. So I think that in the future we will rely more on technology, and we will create pretty awesome things with technology too. No?
When you're saying like manual and operational stuff, what are some of the things you're talking about in that?
Yeah. So for example, I can mention Google Ads. So a couple of years ago, once they first released like automatic bidding, nobody were using it because the algorithm just wasn't good. But now today, their algorithm is pretty good,
Yeah.
works pretty sweet. So that is, for example, one thing that changed like the whole game. Some other stuff, creatives even, I mean, there are like even some tools that can actually create creatives, that can create audio, that can create videos in a matter of seconds. So I think there are like a bunch of this manual stuff that will help us out in the process, and of course even managing campaigns, um, changing the budget based on performance. I mean, this is something that tools can already do, and I think that they will even help us out even further with the development of AI and machine learning. Yeah, so basically, like I mentioned, I'm really looking forward to further development of AI in digital marketing, because I'm already using some tools that are based on some type of machine learning. Of course, it's not completely AI, but for example, I can mention a couple of tools that I'm using or that I know about in the industry. For example, I'm using one tool called the Jarvis. Unfortunately, that's not Jarvis from Iron Man, but actually, this Jarvis creates content. So it can give you another context. How would somebody else write that same piece of content? And it's quite helpful because a lot of times you write in your own style, and this tool can actually give you another example in different contexts. For example, if I'm writing more like a professional, if I have like a more professional style, maybe the tool can give me like a more witty style of the same content, and
Yes.
that actually turns out pretty great, and we use it for some projects, and we test it out quite a lot, and it's pretty cool. So this is like one tool that we use often, but there are also a lot of tools that I know on the market that use AI. For example, you can actually create your logo type in a matter of seconds. Just type AI logo creator or something like that to Google, and you will create it in a matter of seconds. So you do not need to even hire a designer. So basically, you can do it on your own in a matter of seconds.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's really crazy, and I'm totally looking forward to it.
I think, I mean, that just democratizes. It means it brings, like, I mean, maybe not the logo specifically. I know we do need logos, but
Mm.
they're not to me like a core of starting a business. But is it starts bringing down the costs of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And to me, that's really exciting. It makes it more accessible to more people. And by democratizing things just means there's more opportunity for someone else's thought to bring that stuff to reality. Instead of needing, you can create that, those things with one person instead of having to have different people, in specific roles, which means you can just do more. And I think that's, to me, that's just exciting.
There are a lot of stuff actually, especially when previously when I worked with clients, I was more I was more aware of it, but I'm also aware of it now through different like in internal teams that different companies have, etc. So, for example, a lot of digital marketers do not set up KPIs, do not set up like any goals. They have problems with understanding analytics, with implementing analytics. A lot of times SEO is like a practice that nobody works on in the company. Developers, of course, it's not their job. They're not going to touch it. They're not going to work on it. And if nobody knows something about SEO, then of course nothing will happen good for that company. So those are like some basic segments that I think that are not working at this point. So I would say that basically what I think that all digital marketers, project managers, product managers, account managers, etc., need to have a basic knowledge of all different segments of digital marketing, so that they understand. Okay, for this project we have to work on analytics, on SEO, etc. Because if they do not have the basic knowledge, then of course they will not know where to start. And of course, everybody else in the company will be okay, nobody's doing it. So, okay, we do not know better. So yeah, I think those are like some segments that I saw the most problems, and I think that companies also often have problems with just setting up clear KPIs, setting up their North Star metric, and just working for the same goal, even in
Mm.
different departments, which is crazy. Yeah.
Why do you think people are getting it wrong with KPIs? I mean, like, when you say getting, like, you're saying getting it wrong, what do you think is causing, why? I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think people are getting
Yeah. So, from my experience of working for different enterprises, for example, each department has their own set of goals, for example.
wrong? Yes.
And they actually have internal competition between different departments in the same company. So the entire company is not working for the same goal, and basically their own KPIs and goals are distributed for different departments, so they're not aligned with anything. And I think that sometimes maybe um, some KPIs and goals are not even realistic too, because they do not understand the data behind it. They would just say, for example, this month we would love to get 2,000 sales, but for example, I don't know, 1,000 is possible. So yeah, so often they're not realistic, and they do not plan ahead. So that can also be a problem. In Croatia, I would say that we are like a really small. We are like a really small group of people, basically. So there are not a lot of digital marketing experts, and especially not a lot of them that have a lot of knowledge and a lot of they're actually seniors in their job. So we could easily get like juniors, but for example, reaching out to senior people and finding people that can actually make a big impact straight away, uh, that is really, really hard in every segment. So, for example, at Martian, we are currently looking for developers, for product managers, for QA specialists, and it's really, really hard to find people with experience. On the other hand, when it gets to junior people, a lot of them are still inactive. Basically, they do not want to get like an internship. They do not have like a proactive approach to getting something more out of their education and knowledge. Of course, there are some people that would love to invest some more, but a lot of them are just not willing to do the hard work that needs to be done in the start of the career. But in the other hand, I think there is a lot of talents. For us, it mostly uh, in the company I worked previously, for us, it mostly was hiring junior people, working with them, working on their education and on their skills, and building them up as people. And I have to say, I'm pretty happy that they are now working with their own people and their own employees and building them up. So I think it's going quite okay. But definitely, there is still like a big problem with number of people in the industry, and number of people that actually have some experience. So this is an area that we can all work. And of course, in Croatia, some new studies opened up for digital marketing, which is always nice. So there are a lot more opportunities to get some knowledge about it. But like I mentioned, it still requires more like proactive approach and more working on their own to actually get like the first internship or get the first job. Example, I would like give an advice to everybody that is pretty much early in their digital marketing career. You can start a blog, you can open your social media project. So basically, just start working with the tool, or any or a set of tools. Just start working on your own and get some experience through it. Apply to some internship and start working on some clients. And I think that approach worked for me at least. So I think if it worked for me, it should definitely work for everybody else.
Yeah. Did you freelance or like do some internships and but like your own work for clients while you were studying, or only straight after?
I actually started working with my brother in his like smaller company. So I had my first client before I actually knew how to do Google Ads. So that was quite silly, but it actually forced me to learn and to be proactive and to get into the dirty details and everything that's a part of a help center in Google. But yeah, I mean, I didn't freelance. I never freelanced, but I worked on some of my own projects on social media. I also created a blog, so I played around with social media. I always like to have some like extra projects of which I work on. So, for example, at this point, I'm exploring TikTok. Through one profile that nobody knows about it, but I got to 1,000 followers, so I'm still playing out with it, just actually learn more about the platform
Yeah.
and to see how does it work, how does it function. Because I think it's really important to keep working on new trends and keep being and to keep the track of the trends, basically.